This is the video review for Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise Revealer Class Knockout. And Knockout is a really nice figure. Now, before I begin, I do want to say this is going to be a somewhat long review because I have quite a bit to say about this figure, actually. Some about his transformation, some about his paint scheme, some about his dumbass weapon over here, and it will take a little bit of time. Now, first of all, he is a very nice little car. Yeah, he's tiny, but I don't feel ripped off because he has a little bit of heft to him because he ends up being a big robot, and he's supposed to be a tiny car. And, well, it doesn't hurt that I really like it when Hasbro makes tiny cars that turn into really big robots. So, I'm happy with this car mode. I'm happy with the shape, the size, the sculpting, and the scale. Now, the paint scheme. I'm not happy that the hubcaps weren't painted yellow. That would have made this guy perfect. Well, no, there is one actually other flaw. The other flaw about his paint is that this should have been black, because this is the rear windshield, and if this were black, then the whole paint scheme would make a lot more sense, because as it is, the paint scheme looks like he's a car that's this color, that has a random splotch of red that just follows some transformation seams, and that looks kind of bad. But if this is black, it makes a bit more sense that he is a red car with a racing stripe, a big racing stripe that goes back and wraps around. And that it doesn't necessarily follow transformation seams, it follows a car's real seams. And yeah, the paint scheme looks really good in person, but it looks kind of bad in pictures and video. Second of all, or next of all, you see these scratches in the paint here? Those aren't actually really scratches. They're too geometrical. They're all triangles. They're too geometrical to be just random scratches. I don't know why they're there. They're just a bit too tiny to really see, especially considering how little contrast there is there, but they are there. He rolls kind of bad. He kind of skids more than rolls. And the reason for that is, if you see the way the wheel works in there, it's not pinned in, it clips in. And ends up making a very plasticky wheel, and I like the idea, but its execution is kind of bad. Next you have his weapon. It's a big black piece of nothing. It's a spear, but it's very boring. I don't like it. It looks bad on the side of the car, and getting him to hold it is a real pain because the hands have a bunch of kibble around him, and this thing has a bunch of kibble around it. I'll put this off to the side for now. Now, to actually transform this guy is fairly interesting. I really like his transformation. And there are 3 actual transformations for the chest. There's a way that the transformation tell you how to transform it. There's a way that looks like it's the way that's actually designed. And then there is the way that I prefer. So to transform this guy, you'll want to press in on the doors and then pull this back. The reason why is because there are little clips here and here that clip into the insides of his legs. And if you don't push these in, it's really hard to get this out, and it feels like you're going to break something. Split his legs apart, rotate the rear bumper back to form the heel, unpeg the feet from the shin, rotate them around, and there you go. Next, we'll work on the arms. You will pop them out of here, and then split them apart like this. One thing that I really like about this guy's transformation is that he's kind of separated into thirds. There's the rear third, the middle third, and then the top third. Now, once you actually get to the where this flips over, it's not really quite separated into thirds anymore, but it's neat how it's organized like that. I find that kind of pleasing for some reason. And then you'll rotate the arms up like this. Make sure this shoulder bit is straight up, or else it'll bump into this hinge here. Then you'll take the wheel and spin it around like this. Do the same to the other side. And then what we're going to do to transform the arms is we're going to take the rear part of this disc joint and make it so that's facing backwards. We're going to pull out the hand And we're going to, let's see, how does this work? Yeah, we're going to rotate this into here and then bend this over. It's very neat the way it works. It wraps around itself several times to get into car mode, and wraps around itself several times to get into robot mode. Once you do it a couple times, it's fairly intuitive, but at first it is kind of strange. Just figuring out how everything kind of hooks together. Once you figure it out, it's not bad though. And then here we have the arms done, and let's continue on to the upper body. You'll pop this up, and then what you'll do is you'll push up under the head so that you can push this part up, and then you'll push as far forward as possible. That will release the head here a little bit so that it can pop forward, sort of an automorph feature. And then you will bring this down along this joint here, pop these out, and then you can continue folding along this joint here. And then the head has too many spikes to really automorph up on its own, but once in a blue moon you'll get lucky. Then you'll bring this down, and this peg will go into this hole, and then you'll wrap these bits around his waist. They don't lock in very well, and they'll come undone fairly easily, but I really like the way these work. They're very clever. And then, for the most part, he's done, but the way to get his chest really solid is a couple more steps. Now, the way the instructions tell you to do it is give him big old moves like this. Looks awful. The way that I think is the intended transformation, push this all the way up, and then these bits here, you can bend them up a little bit and then to the side, and they'll clip into this hood piece here. And they'll stay in pretty well. And the reason why I think this is the official transformation is because you will notice there's a little, well, it's not quite sitting in there right now, but there's a little notch right there that I think is meant for this chest piece. Like, see how it fills into that notch? I think that notch right there is meant for that chest piece for this chest configuration. However, this is not to show accurate chest configuration, and it looks very bland in here. The configuration that I prefer, it takes a bit of work to do because it's kind of an inexact way to do it. And if the front of this hood piece gets under here, you'll have to get your finger underneath to do this. But what you'll do is make sure that this is pressed all the way down, and then what you will do is it's a double hinge thing. On the hinge that's closest to you, you will bend it back. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to bend the neck, this gray neck joint thing here, so that this gray tab ends up under here, under this hinge here, and then the back of the ball joint socket ends up pressed up against here. And the goal here is so that, and this thing likes to fight me, it doesn't always work, but what you want is for this hood, the bottom of this hood piece here, to end up inside each of these corners here. It takes a bit to do it, mostly because it's kind of hard getting it there. See how I did that? It takes a bit of fiddling to get it done, but if you do this, then there will be room enough to bring these over and clip them in all the way down while having this chest piece forward, because normally there isn't enough room to do this. And what that does is it makes it so his head is lower. And why that's important is because with his head lower, his shoulders look more in place. Like with the other transformation, the shoulders were just way too low. And it makes it so that these pieces right here aren't chest pieces. They're not like a lot of Transformers, the headlights end up as part of the chest, like that happens to Jazz a lot. But here, these aren't supposed to be chest pieces. They're supposed to be like almost like a fur that a fancy lady would wear, or like the inside fuzz of a jacket that Scumbag Steve would wear. And his head is supposed to be sunken into it a little bit. That's how it looks in the show, because there are more shoulder armaments than chest pieces. And then having this piece here protruding out a little bit makes his chest look a lot more transformed and a lot less plain. And in this way, I think he looks a lot more show accurate and a lot better. I really like the way he looks like this. It's a very subtle change compared to the other transformations, but I think it is an important change. I think it takes him from being a kind of meh figure to a really cool figure. Now for articulation, the arms can go around 360, then go in and out. This bit will get in the way and get annoying. And he can rotate above the elbow, but if you bend his elbow, this windshield right here will get in the way of the rotation. You can still rotate it, but it feels like you're bending the plastic a little bit, and I don't like to do it. That's actually a fairly big problem with the arms, and I don't like the arms very much in robot mode, though I do like the way they transform. I just wish that this would like slide forward and fold over a little bit. That would have been pretty neat if they could have done it. And the arms will bend about 90 degrees. The hands will rotate 360 degrees, and you can wiggle them a little bit, but they don't have that much movement. The head can go forward and back a little bit, rotate side to side, and that's it. He does have a little bit of light piping, but it's fairly weak, mostly because it blends in with this plastic here. It just looks like, when the eyes are lit up, it just looks like the eyes are made out of this plastic. He doesn't have a waist joint, but his legs will go forward, back, out, rotate above the knee, and get a lot of motion here. The toe can bend up and down, and go side to side, and I don't know why you'd want to, but the heel can move like this. And that is his articulation. And now for his weapon, I don't really like it. Oh, I don't really like his weapon because if he holds it by this handle, it looks really bad. I mean, it almost looks like a missile, but there's too much kibble in the way to really do it. And then the way you have to take it apart to transform it, to get him to hold it, is really annoying too. You have to take it apart and then shove it down his hand, and it doesn't really like to go either because he has these little edges on it that bump into parts of his hand and then other kibble back here. And then you have to clip this back in, which if you have this staff rotated the other way around is kind of hard to do. So the staff is a bit of a pain to get into his hand, and I think it looks more boring than intimidating. It really could have used some paint, or even just being molded in this gray plastic would have helped. Not because I like this gray plastic in excess, but because it would have made it, being this black color makes it very easy to lose in the eye. It's just, black parts on Transformers, really dark parts, just get lost so easily. That's why I like the brighter color of this guy. And yeah, this is Knockout. He's a really nice figure. He takes a bit of getting used to, because there's some quirks to how he transforms and everything, and the chest is a bit of a pain until you figure it out. But once you figure him out, he is a really nice figure. I do really like him. I do recommend him. And he actually ends up looking fairly show accurate if you transform him like this. If you like the figures I review Transformers, Macross figures, Marvel figures, things like that, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.